Well,
and I know Ron since he got out of college when he was 22 years old.
Well, when you talk to these people, I mean, do they actually know how bad the situation is? Are they trying to put a face on this, make it look a whole lot better than it really is? I mean, do they actually tell you what they're doing, or do they just say, oh, no, I mean, do they really believe this? That's what I want to know.
They tell you. They're conscious. They know what they're doing.
We'll be back.
This doesn't happen by coincidence. They're told to do that.
And I want to ask him, do they want to have just two banks? We'll be back after this 4-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour.
You pay for what you get.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking to our guest, Bob Chapman. If you have never gotten a copy of his email newsletter or a hard copy of his letter, you can call 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178. Or if you're on email, go to theinternationalforecaster.com. Get your complimentary copy of the newsletter, and you're going to be sold. You are going to want to get this. You're going to want to know what in the world is going on financially. Well, this will put it all together for you. Before we continue, give them an idea of some of the things that you have predicted that have come true, Bob, or some of the direction that is taken exactly what you predicted.
Well, we picked the top of the market in June of 1980 in gold and silver shares. And after that, they went down into 1984, and we picked a rally there. Where gold rallied from 350 to 512. And after that, gold more or less flattened out, and I closed my brokerage firm in 1989, and I started the International Forecaster shortly thereafter. And I think the best calls I've made were I made an interest rate call when the rates were around 3.5% back in the early 90s, and I pegged the 30-year at 8 1/8. And so for bond players, it was a tremendous hit. I picked in the early 90s as well the run in natural gas, which went from $2.50 a BCF up to $14.75, and I get out right near the top. I got out of the top of the market in April, the second week in April in 2000. In June, we started to buy the gold and silver coins and shares, or that recommendation. Mm-hmm. I predicted the 9/11 event within 33 days, but didn't know what the event was going to be. I predicted the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. I picked the top of the market at 14,100 on the Dow. I picked the bottom recently at 6,600. I thought the market would go to 8,500. It's gone to 9,800, a little bit further than I thought it would. This is a bear market rally. It's going to go back down over the next couple of years, and it's going to test 6,600 and break it. And it should do it next year. And that's because bank earnings in the first quarter, which will be reported in the first quarter for the last quarter of this year, will be dreadful. The bank and financial earnings for next year are going to be unbelievably bad. And so that'll be the catalyst that takes the market down. Where could we go in the market? 2,800 on the Dow to 4,200 if we're lucky.
Whoa, that is horrible. That's unbelievable.
I know. And the stimulus package has not worked very well. I expect another one for $2 trillion, and I expect that will be slammed into place by June of next year. If they don't get that, then the banks have to start increasing their lending instead of reducing it by 14% year on year. And if they do increase it, it will forestall some of the downside. But they desperately need that package for stimulus. And I think they'll get it. And that will probably draw things out sideways to slightly lower over another year. So the stimulus package you're looking at now, the effects of which should last into the summer of next year, and that'll be sideways in GDP and unemployment, and inflation will be the exception. inflation will go exceptionally higher. By next June, they'll admit that it's 3.5% to 4%, when in fact it'll be somewhere around 12%. And inflation is going to become a major problem this coming year and even worse the following year.
Well, it appears to me from all of this, if you go down to the bottom line of all of this, it seems that they want to have maybe only two banks so they can control those two banks and get all these other banks out of business. So the good cop, bad cop game they're playing here of, oh, my goodness, we don't want these banks to fail is in reality not true. They do want them to fail.
You're right, they do. They want one bank so that they can merge all banks together into a one world bank. That's what they're after, then the one world currency. And you see them leading up to a one world international trading unit. They're talking about the SDR, which is fiat, it's worth nothing.
Okay, we've got a 3-minute break. We'll be right back with Ted Anderson and with Bob Chapman. FFIEC.gov. Check out your bank. Bob Chapman. Bob, what about this Chavez, I only want Liberty dollars? Have you heard anything about that? And also, what's going on with Iran, Japan, Brazil, China, and everybody else that's jumping on the bandwagon?
Well, first of all, in reflection of what Ted said, I've been telling my readers for the last 5 years that I think that pre-64 junk silver, as it's called, 90% silver, I think it has become semi-numismatic. And the reason why is I've melted so many of them down over the years that there's not many left. And I'll just leave you with that comment on that. As far as what's going on with an alternative to the dollar, the group that you've spoken of said that they were not involved in secret talks, and that includes Germany as well. And they are, and there's no question. When the IMF comes out and says, yes, we're going to use the SDR instead of the dollar in many instances, the SDR, the Special Depository Receipt, is another fiat currency. It's not worth the paper it's written on. I think what they're looking for here is a G20 currencies put together on a weighted basis with a gold backing. And I think they're going to go to, if they're smart, they'll go to 15% gold to make it work. And that means all of the currencies have to put their weight into the index, so to speak, which will change 24 hours a day.
Now, are you saying that they're literally going to put 15% gold in the coins?
No. What I'm saying is that each nation will have to have a 15% backing on its currency.
Okay.
Now, if they're to do that, it creates a problem. That problem is most of them don't have any gold, and those who do don't have enough. And that's going to throw countries, into the gold market to buy a sufficient amount of gold to cover the value of their currency. We'll put it in that term. It's much more complicated than that. But anyway, that's what they're headed for here. And I think they're going to get it. But it'll take probably 2 to 2.5, 3 years for it to be implemented.
And what's that going to do to the United States economy? We'll be back after this 3-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour and Bob Chapman.